Well, good morning, guys. It's wonderful to be with you again for another one of our morning prayer times together. It is Monday, the 31st of August, and today we're carrying on with our journey through Mark's Gospel. We're getting right towards the end of it now. We've just had the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, we've had the Last Supper, we've had all of those build up things going on, and today we come to when the story really starts to head towards Jesus' crucifixion. So they're really important verses, these. So what we're going to do in a minute is I'm going to get into the passage. We're going to do a little bit of a reflection on it. I'll do a little bit of thoughts about it. Then we'll say the Lord's Prayer, and then we'll carry on. And then on Wednesday, we carry on with the story, and on Friday as well. So it's wonderful that you can be here. It's wonderful if you're watching this when it goes out on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday mornings, or if you catch up during the day, or whenever you catch up. It doesn't really matter. The whole thing is that in this moment, during this time, we take just a pause from normal life, from the busyness of life, and just listen to what God might be saying to us today. So, what I invite you to do is, while you're doing this, if you can, get a Bible somewhere near you. You can get them on your phone and your tablet. You can maybe have a Bible near you or something like that, and find Mark's Gospel. And we're in Mark chapter 14. That's where you want to head to. And if you can have that somewhere nearby, what I find really useful whenever I'm kind of doing these things is to actually read the passage afterwards and just have a think about what God is trying to say to you. What kind of feelings do you get? What do you read into the story that's being told? And it really helps if you can do that. So if you've got a chance, go get a Bible, get one nearby you, get to Mark chapter 14. You actually want verse 43 is where we start today. And it can be really helpful just to have that with you to help reflect and so on. If you can't actually get a Bible or you struggle with your sight, it's really good to maybe get an audio Bible. There's a lots of choices with regards to audio Bibles out there. So again, if you can get hold of those on your phone, on your laptop, anything like that, they can be really helpful in just helping you explore faith and explore the stories of the gospel. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the passage. So, like I say, what's just happened is Jesus has been doing a lot of things in Jerusalem now. He's been at the temple, the center of the Jewish faith. He's been there in the courtyards doing a lot of teaching, a lot of ministry, a lot of healing. He's been causing a lot of problem through his conversations with those in leadership, with the priests and the elders of the Jewish faith, and they are fed up of him. And they've put together a plan to arrest him and to get him killed. And they've managed to coerce Judas, one of Jesus' closest followers, into helping them do this. And Judas has agreed to betray Jesus. Jesus knows this. He's aware that he's going to be betrayed. And he says this at the Last Supper that they just had together, this last meal, where Jesus says, "This is my body and this is my blood given for you," where we get our communion service from. And then after that, we've had Peter saying he will never leave Jesus, and Jesus telling him, "You're going to. In fact, when this goes down, when it all starts to go wrong, all of you are going to run." And then we've had Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, this incredible moment where Jesus, even with all his authority and what we see as his power and indeed his divinity, we see the humanness of Jesus when he says that he's troubled by what's about to happen, that he's worried, in fact, that he's scared, but that he will follow God's will through to the end. And we pick up the story from that moment where Jesus has just turned to his followers and said, "It's time. It's about to happen." So, we're in Mark chapter 14, verse 43. Just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared, and with him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs sent from the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. You arrest him and lead him away under guard." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Am I leading a rebellion," said Jesus, "that you've come out with swords and clubs to capture me?" Every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled." Then everyone deserted him and fled. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled, leaving his garment behind. So here we see this story really starting to take shape. We see things really starting to happen. And we get a very clear picture of the kind of tension of this moment, the violence of this moment, but also just the emotions that are being flung around. So Jesus knows what's about to happen. He has said to his followers there in the Garden of Gethsemane, "It's time. It's about to happen. I'm about to be arrested." And then Judas arrives with this crowd of people and soldiers who have been arranged by the chief priests and the elders to come and arrest Jesus. And they come with weapons and with swords. And actually what happens is there is a little bit of a fight that happens. They seize Jesus after Judas makes it clear he's the one that should be arrested. And they seize him. And one of the disciples actually retaliates and cuts off someone's ear. Now, in another version of the gospel, what happens is Jesus heals that person. He picks up the ear and heals it and puts it back on. But that idea that Jesus says, am I leading a rebellion? Have I displayed some kind of violence that you come with weapons towards me? But such is the state of fear about Christ that they want to make sure. So what we see play out is people arriving with weapons, and actually some of Jesus' followers react to that with violence of their own, and Jesus stops that. No, that is not what this is about. I'm not leading a violent rebellion. You must not fight. So what happens instead? We'll see these words. Everyone deserted him and fled. Now remember, only a few hours beforehand, Jesus had told them that it was going to get hard, and he had said, all of you will fall away, all of you will run. And they all said, especially Peter, we will never leave you, even to the point of death. We will follow you. And now here, it's being tested properly. Here, it's all actually happening. And what happens? They run. Now, the reason that they run is interesting. Because, like I say, the default position was to try and protect Jesus, was to try and actually retaliate from those who were arresting him and use the weapons that they had. And when Jesus says, no, don't do that, well, then they feel like they're left with no other option than to run. It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes when our default kind of or instinct reaction is taken away, we're left not knowing what to do. I find that with the disciples here, their choice is now clear. Either you're arrested with Christ and led away, or you run. You are not to be violent and fight. And their choice is to run. In fact, one of the disciples, we don't know who it is at the end of the story, it says that he was seized, but he struggled so hard out of his clothes that he ran and left behind a garment in the soldier's hands. Isn't that interesting? That when it actually came to it, the choice of being arrested with Christ, nearly a bit too, getting a bit too zealous there, the choice of being arrested with Christ or running, well, they chose to run. Now, let's be honest. When I read this, I would love to tell you that I would be arrested with Christ. I would love to say that when he said, Joe, I don't want you to pick up the weapon. I don't want you to hurt anybody. This needs to happen. And you get a choice. And your choice is either to be arrested with Christ and go through everything that he's going to go through, or to run. I would love to tell you that I'd be arrested with Christ. Oh, yes, arrest me. I know who he is. I'm one of his followers. I'm going to be honest with you. The choice, I'd probably run. And I think if I look through my life as a Christian, there's been very clear times when that's been really tested. When to say I'm a follower of Christ has come with a massive element of risk with people's judgment of me, and I've run in the other direction. I've kept it quiet. Now, we're going to come on to this a bit later on with Peter's denial of Christ, but here's where we see that first glimpse of actually when pushed and tested, the disciples do not want to stick with Christ. They want to save their own skins, and they run. And we do the same. I do the same. I run. If it gets hard, if it gets tricky, if it gets challenging, if it gets, well, I run. And I don't just do it because people have challenged my faith or anything along those lines. I run when it gets difficult, when uncertainty comes around, when I'm not really sure what's happening next, when it becomes difficult to be a Christian, when it becomes difficult to follow Christ. One of the easiest things we can do is not to follow where he's leading, but to run. I think from this passage, not only is it important in setting out the story of Jesus' crucifixion and the fact that all his followers deserted him in the hour when he was arrested, that he was left by his followers. Everyone deserted him and fled. It isn't for us to come with that with judgment, but actually to recognize that we do the same so often in our lives. When it's lovely to follow Christ, when it's easy, when it's fulfilling, when it's beautiful, man, being a Christian and following Christ is the greatest thing. But when it's hard, when it's challenging, when it's bringing with it problems and issues, well, then suddenly it's not so nice. And to run and flee and kind of go, well, no, I don't, I'm not really a Christian. Well, I just go to church, or that type of thing. We do that so often. So I don't think it's right for us to judge the disciples. Actually, we are those disciples today. What I wanted to do, I wanted to read the passage again. So in the Bibles that you've got in front of you, or you're listening to, Mark chapter 14, verse 43, read it through and imagine what your reaction would be as a disciple, and what is your reaction today as a disciple. When Jesus is tested, or your faith is tested, or Jesus is questioned, or something difficult is going to happen, what's our instinct? Is it to run towards Christ or to run away from him? Is it to follow through with the risks that come with being a Christian? Or is it to try and just maintain some sense of security? Or, I don't know him. No, I'm running. You're on your own, Jesus. These are challenging things, and they're supposed to be, because it's here that the real core of faith comes through, the real core of our Christian faith comes through. It's easy to be a Christian when it's easy. It's easy to be a follower of Christ when there's not much at stake. But here there is a lot at stake. And the disciples run. Do we do the same? Let's say the Lord's Prayer together, and then we'll be on our way. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. As always, wonderful to be with you. I will see you again on Wednesday morning. Just a little heads up, we've got the first of our kind of weekly services. We're getting back into having weekly regular Sunday morning services in our churches. The first of those is this coming Sunday, 10:15 at St Andrew's in Rillington. If you want to know when the services are, do check the Benefits website, buckrosecars.org.uk. It's got the calendar up there. You can see when the services are and where they are. But also, just to remind you as well, the online services, so this morning prayer and the Sunday morning services, they will be carrying on. So morning prayer, we'll get through Mark's Gospel, and then I'm going to change it slightly, but it'll happen at the same times, Monday, Wednesday and Fridays, and the Sunday morning service will be online as well as in the church building. Anyway, hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on Wednesday morning. So remember, Mark's Gospel, chapter 14, verse 43. Have a read through for yourself. What is God trying to say to you? Okay, stay safe, may God be with you, and be at peace. See you Wednesday.